I never thought I'd be one of those people writing on Reddit about my marriage falling apart, but here I am. I'm 57, been married to my wife, let's call her Linda, for 32 years. We raised 2 kids together, both grown and out of the house now. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always thought we were solid. We had a nice home, steady routines, and honestly, I thought we were heading into that golden years phase of life. But lately, something just felt off. It started small. She'd nitpick my clothes, criticize how I mowed the lawn, or roll her eyes whenever I suggested watching a movie together. At first, I chalked it up to her being stressed, menopause, maybe, or just restlessness with the kids gone. But the tone was different. Sharper. Colder. Then came the little things that pricked at me like needles. She suddenly got too busy for our weekly date night. She started guarding her phone like it was the nuclear codes, flipping it face down whenever I walked in the room. She'd stay out late for book club, which, mind you, she never once mentioned in 30 years of marriage, and return home smelling like some man's cologne, not the perfume I'd gifted her for Christmas. I wanted to believe it was nothing. I really did. At my age, you don't want to start over. You don't want to face the possibility that the person you trusted your entire adult life is betraying you. But deep down, I think I already knew something was wrong. And then, the dam broke. The night I finally got my answer, it wasn't because I went snooping. I wasn't even looking for anything. I was sitting in my recliner, dozing off with the TV humming in the background. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. She must have forgotten to take it with her when she stepped outside to call her sister. I swear, I wasn't trying to pry. But the screen lit up, and there it was. A message preview from someone saved only as M. It read, "Last night was amazing, can't wait to feel you again." My heart stopped. I grabbed the phone like it was evidence in a crime scene. Hands shaking, I scrolled up. Messages, pictures, emojis that made my stomach churn. It wasn't some harmless flirtation. It was full-on intimacy. They'd been talking for months, maybe longer. Dinner plans, hotel meetups, even inside jokes about me. What cut the deepest was one line, "Don't worry about him, he's too old and clueless to suspect a thing." That was the moment everything inside me shattered. I set the phone back down just before she walked in, laughing about how her sister's dog had acted crazy again. I just stared at her, my chest tight, my ears ringing. I knew. But I didn't say a word. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night. I just laid there next to her, staring at the ceiling, replaying those messages over and over in my head. By morning, I knew I couldn't pretend. At breakfast, I put my coffee down, looked her straight in the eyes, and said, "Linda, who the hell is M?" She froze. Just for a second, but I caught it. That flicker of panic before she plastered on a smirk. "M? Oh, you mean Martha from book club. We text sometimes about the meetings. You're really going to interrogate me over that?" I told her I'd read the messages. I expected tears, maybe apologies. Instead, she laughed, actually laughed. "Oh my God, you're ridiculous. You probably read it wrong. You're always so paranoid. No wonder I don't tell you things anymore." I lost it. I slammed my hand on the table. "Don't lie to me. I saw what he wrote. Last night was amazing. That's not book club, Linda." And then the mask slipped. She rolled her eyes, leaned back in her chair, and muttered, "So what if I have a little fun?" "You're boring, Harold. You sit in that chair every night, falling asleep to reruns. I need more than this half-dead routine." The words hit harder than any punch. After 3 decades together, kids, mortgages, sickness, everything, I was boring to her. Just background noise in her life. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just a mistake. This was who she'd become. The second those words left her mouth, it felt like the ground disappeared under me. 31 years together, and suddenly I was nothing more than boring Harold. I couldn't even speak. My throat locked up. Instead, I just stared at her, trying to recognize the woman I'd married, the one who used to squeeze my hand during thunderstorms, who stayed up all night with me when our youngest had a fever, who promised me forever under an oak tree in her parents' backyard. But all I saw was someone cold. Distant. Almost amused at my pain. The anger came in waves. 1 minute, I was boiling, ready to throw her phone against the wall, to scream until the neighbors called the cops. The next, I was just hollow, staring at the wedding ring on my hand like it was mocking me. I barely remember the rest of that morning. She left for yoga class, which I now knew was just code for meeting him. And I sat there in silence, with the TV off, the clock ticking loud enough to drive me insane. I kept asking myself, was I really that blind? Was I really that unworthy of love? And that's when the sadness hit harder than the anger. Because deep down, I realized I'd already lost her long before I ever found those messages. By the time she came back that afternoon, I'd made a choice. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to sit around while she made me the fool in my own house. She strolled in like nothing had happened, yoga mat under her arm, hair a little too messy, perfume stronger than usual. She actually had the nerve to kiss me on the cheek like we were still fine. I stepped back. Linda, stop. We both know where you were. Her smile vanished. So what now, Harold? You gonna pack up and leave after all these years? You can't even cook your own dinner. That cut deep, not because it was true, but because it was cruel. She wanted me dependent, weak, trapped. But I'd already called a lawyer that morning. Just to ask questions. Just to know my options. For the first time in years, I felt a tiny flicker of control coming back to me. I didn't tell her about the call. Instead, I said calmly, I don't know what's going to happen yet. But I do know one thing, I deserve better than this. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and muttered something under her breath as she went upstairs. But I saw it, the first sign of fear on her face. She realized I wasn't the doormat she thought I was. For the first time in decades, the power shifted. The very next day, the universe seemed determined to shove more truth in my face. I was sorting through the mail when a hotel receipt fell out of her purse, right there on the kitchen counter. Dated last week. A double occupancy room. 2 breakfasts charged. When I confronted her, she didn't even blink. Oh, that? I was with Carol. We had a little girl's getaway. I called Carol. She sounded confused, then furious. Harold, I haven't seen Linda in months. That was the moment the dam really broke. If she was bold enough to lie to my face with evidence in hand, then how many lies had I swallowed over the years without knowing? And then, the real kicker. Later that week, my son came over unannounced. He sat me down, serious look on his face, and said, Dad, I didn't know how to tell you this, but Mom's been acting weird for a long time. I saw her once, with some guy. I thought maybe you knew. That hit harder than any betrayal yet. My own kids had seen it. My family had been living in the shadows of her choices, and I was the only one still pretending. By then, I knew, there was no fixing this. What she destroyed couldn't be glued back together. The unraveling had begun, and there was no going back. The very next day, the universe seemed determined to shove more truth in my face. I was sorting through the mail when a hotel receipt fell out of her purse, right there on the kitchen counter. Dated last week. A double occupancy room. 2 breakfasts charged. When I confronted her, she didn't even blink. Oh, that? I was with Carol. We had a little girl's getaway. I called Carol. She sounded confused, then furious. Harold, I haven't seen Linda in months. That was the moment the dam really broke. If she was bold enough to lie to my face with evidence in hand, then how many lies had I swallowed over the years without knowing? And then, the real kicker. Later that week, my son came over unannounced. He sat me down, serious look on his face, and said, "Dad, I didn't know how to tell you this, but Mom's been acting weird for a long time. I saw her once, with some guy. I thought maybe you knew." That hit harder than any betrayal yet. My own kids had seen it. My family had been living in the shadows of her choices, and I was the only one still pretending. By then, I knew, there was no fixing this. What she destroyed couldn't be glued back together. The unraveling had begun, and there was no going back. The word divorce hung in the air like a bomb that had just gone off. For a second, she just stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't form words. Then the tears came, big, dramatic, over-the-top sobs that felt more like a performance than genuine regret. "You can't do this, Harold," she wailed, clutching at my arm. "Think of the family. Think of what people will say." I shook her off. "People already know more than I do, apparently. I'm done being the fool in this story." That's when the anger showed. Her face twisted, voice sharp. "Fine. But you're not taking the house. And don't think the kids will side with you, either. They'll never forgive you for breaking up the family." The sheer audacity made me laugh, an actual bitter laugh I didn't know was in me. "Breaking up the family? Linda, you did that the first time you snuck off to a hotel with him." And then, almost like the devil himself wanted to punctuate the moment, her phone buzzed on the table. The screen lit up. A man's name. I didn't even need to touch it. She lunged for the phone, but it was too late. I'd seen enough. "Get out," I told her, my voice flat. "Tonight." She sputtered, tried to argue, but for the first time in years, I didn't budge. I was calm. Cold. Done. That night, she left with a suitcase and a face full of fury. And for the first time in months, maybe years, the house felt quiet. But the fallout was only beginning. The next morning, my phone was buzzing like crazy. Missed calls, voicemails, texts, all from our two grown kids. Apparently, Linda had gotten to them first. She spun the story, of course. According to her, I'd lost my mind, thrown her out, and was trying to destroy the family. Classic. When my daughter finally called and I picked up, her voice was sharp. "Dad, what the hell happened? Mom says you just kicked her out." I took a deep breath. "Sweetheart, I didn't kick her out. I told her the truth, that I know about the affair. She's been lying to me, to us, for years." There was silence on the line. Then, "Dad, are you serious?" I told her everything. The receipts. The phone calls. The lies. By the end, her tone had shifted from anger to heartbreak. Oh my God. I had no idea. My son, on the other hand, wasn't as quick to believe me. He accused me of exaggerating, of trying to make Mom look bad. It hurt, but I understood, she's always been good at playing the victim. Then came the friends, the neighbors. Word spread fast in our small community. Some people were supportive. Others gave me the pitying looks, the whispers. It felt like my entire life was on display. And in the middle of all this, Linda was still calling me, leaving voicemails alternating between begging for forgiveness and threatening to take me for everything I had. The aftershock was brutal. But weirdly enough, it was also clarifying. For the first time, I knew exactly who was in my corner, and who wasn't. The next morning, my phone was buzzing like crazy. Missed calls, voicemails, texts, all from our two grown kids. Apparently, Linda had gotten to them first. She spun the story, of course. According to her, I'd lost my mind, thrown her out, and was trying to destroy the family. Classic. When my daughter finally called and I picked up, her voice was sharp. "Dad, what the hell happened? Mom says you just kicked her out. I took a deep breath. Sweetheart, I didn't kick her out. I told her the truth, that I know about the affair. She's been lying to me, to us, for years. There was silence on the line. Then, Dad, are you serious? I told her everything. The receipts. The phone calls. The lies. By the end, her tone had shifted from anger to heartbreak. Oh my God. I had no idea. My son, on the other hand, wasn't as quick to believe me. He accused me of exaggerating, of trying to make Mom look bad. It hurt, but I understood, she's always been good at playing the victim. Then came the friends, the neighbors. Word spread fast in our small community. Some people were supportive. Others gave me the pitying looks, the whispers. It felt like my entire life was on display. And in the middle of all this, Linda was still calling me, leaving voicemails alternating between begging for forgiveness and threatening to take me for everything I had. The aftershock was brutal. But weirdly enough, it was also clarifying. For the first time, I knew exactly who was in my corner, and who wasn't. Just when I thought I was drowning in this mess alone, my best friend, Mike, dropped by unannounced. We hadn't seen each other in months, but he could immediately tell something was wrong from the look on my face. Harold, what happened? He asked gently. I hesitated, not wanting to get into the messy details, but then I spilled everything. From the messages, the receipts, the lies, the phone calls, and the outrageous divorce demands. Mike shook his head. Man, I can't believe she'd do that after all these years. You didn't deserve this. Then he did something I'll never forget. He offered to testify to my character if things got messy legally, and more importantly, he gave me perspective. Look, you've got the truth on your side. Don't let her spin this into her advantage. You're not alone. It was a small thing, but it mattered. In the storm of betrayal, having even one person in your corner who truly believes you can be a lifeline. For the first time since the discovery, I felt like I had a shield, however thin, against the chaos. And I realized something crucial, I wasn't weak. I wasn't pathetic. I had friends, family, and the truth. That's more powerful than anything she could throw at me. A few weeks into the legal back and forth, something shifted. I stopped reacting emotionally to Linda's calls, texts, and theatrics. Instead, I started planning strategically, leaning on my lawyer and Mike's advice. For the first time in months, I felt like I was steering my own life rather than being tossed around by her chaos. I also started reclaiming my personal space. The recliner in the living room became my sanctuary again, the kitchen table my planning station. I even took up early morning walks, something I hadn't done since before retirement, just to clear my head and remind myself that I still existed outside of this mess. And then came a surprise during one of our mediation sessions. Linda's lawyer tried to paint me as controlling, bitter, and bitterly vindictive. I expected it, but instead of getting defensive, I calmly presented the evidence, hotel receipts, messages, and her repeated lies. My voice was steady, my composure firm. The mediator leaned back, eyebrows raised. Well, that's pretty conclusive, he said. Hearing the truth laid bare in a room full of neutral eyes felt like sunlight breaking through a storm. I realized that for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I wasn't just surviving, I was reclaiming myself. And more than that, I knew Linda's power over me was gone. She could threaten, manipulate, or lie all she wanted. I finally had my anchor in truth, in law, and in my own dignity. Just when I thought I had a handle on things, life threw me another curveball. During a routine meeting with my lawyer, a piece of information came up that stopped me cold. Apparently, Linda had been secretly funneling money from our joint accounts into a separate investment fund, something neither of us had ever discussed. At first, I couldn't believe it. Why? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. My lawyer shrugged. Financial control. She's trying to protect her assets in case of divorce. But it's extensive. More than just a few thousand. This could complicate things. The shock didn't come from the amount, it came from the realization of how much deception had been going on behind my back, financially and emotionally. I felt a mix of fury, betrayal, and, oddly, a strange sense of clarity. The woman I thought I knew wasn't just unfaithful, she was systematically undermining the life we built together. I called Mike immediately. "You won't believe this," I said. After listening, he muttered, "Harold, you're staring down the truth. This is brutal, but at least you finally see it clearly. Don't let her manipulate you now." That night, I sat alone in my living room, staring at the faint glow of the streetlights outside. I realized I was witnessing the full picture, the lies, the affair, the manipulation, the attempts to control both my heart and my finances. It was devastating, but also oddly liberating. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't just reacting. I was understanding. And understanding meant I could finally plan my next move with precision. The day came when I had to see her face to face one last time before everything was finalized. I didn't want drama, I wanted closure. And maybe, deep down, I wanted her to understand the wreck she'd left behind. She walked in, perfectly coiffed, wearing that smug smile I'd come to despise. "Harold. I guess we're finally doing this," she said, acting casual as if nothing had happened. I took a deep breath. "Linda, do you even realize what you've done? The lies, the betrayal, the manipulation. You've torn apart 32 years of marriage, and for what? Some fleeting thrill?" Her eyes narrowed. "Don't lecture me. You were weak. You let this marriage stagnate. I needed excitement. You just sat there." I held up my hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "Excitement? That's what you call ruining lives? Do you have any idea the damage you caused? To me, to our kids, to yourself?" For the first time, I saw a flicker of something: shame, regret, or maybe just fear. But it was fleeting. She turned away, trying to brush it off. Then I said something I hadn't realized I'd been holding back: "I hope one day you realize that what you wanted so badly wasn't worth destroying the life you had." She froze, blinked, and then left without another word. I stood there for a long while, alone in the quiet house. It was over. Not easy, not clean, but finally, over. And as I sank into my chair, I felt a strange mix of sorrow, relief, and, above all, freedom. This was the reckoning, not just for her, but for me too. Sitting alone in the living room, the house finally quiet, I reflected on everything that had happened. The shock. The anger. The heartbreak. The lies. The manipulation. And somehow, through all of it, the clarity. I realized something important: betrayal doesn't just wound you, it teaches you. It forces you to see who you really are, what you value, and what you're willing to tolerate. For me, it revealed resilience I didn't know I had, and a self-respect that had been buried under decades of routine and compromise. I also learned that love isn't always enough. Even 32 years together couldn't overcome deceit and selfishness. And while I mourned the life I thought I had, I also understood that a better one awaited, one built on truth, dignity, and honesty. To anyone reading this who finds themselves in a similar nightmare, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs. And most importantly, never let anyone make you feel small or boring for wanting a life of respect and honesty. You deserve someone who sees your worth, not someone who destroys it for a cheap thrill. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe I'll find love again, maybe not. But I do know this: I survived. I reclaimed myself. And that, in the end, is enough. The storm passed, and for the first time in years, I could finally breathe.